that at the end of the day, the overall decision on the project, it is not a county staff decision. It is a decision by the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors' decision on the project is final. There is no further appeals beyond that, and we'll speak to that in a little bit more detail in the presentation, including the potential timeline. So before we go through the presentation, I was going to provide just a very quick overview of the CEQA process. This is the state law that basically drives the environmental impact review process. It's called the California Environmental Quality Act, and that act basically requires us to study the environmental impacts of a project. And as part of that, once we have done that analysis, we disclose it to the public. We provide it out to the public, we provide it to folks to review that information, then provide comments and thoughts and feedback on that. It allows the community to provide your own expertise and opinion on the studies and information that we put together based on your experience. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, the project manager, and he's going to walk through the details of the recirculation in the project.
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, that's our slide. The county, again, has received an application for the mining project. This application came in actually about 2018. The formal application was Sorry. Thank you. All right, I'm going to try that again. So again, the county received the application back in 2018. The formal application is called a major use permit, and it also has a reclamation plan. And the project... Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So the project proposes the conversion of 2 golf courses within the Cottonwood Golf Club, and it's a 10-year sand mining operation with an additional 2-year reclamation period. Approximately 214 acres of the approximately 280-acre site are proposed for mining and restoration, which would occur in a total of 4 phases. These applications are discretionary. The decision maker can approve or deny the project. And at this point in the process, we estimate the project will move forward for consideration next year. So again, right now we're in the environmental review process. This is the project vicinity. It's north of the SR-94 and east of the SR-54. The project site is the Cottonwood Golf Course address of 3121 Willow Glen Drive in the Valley to Oro Community Planning area. And we've got just... Okay, sorry. So we do have display boards showing that project location in the auditorium here if you want to take a look at those. The Cottonwood sand mining project proposes, again, the conversion of 2 golf courses to a 10-year sand mining operation. Thank you for the audio. An additional 2-year reclamation period. 4.3 million cubic yards will be extracted. 3.8 million cubic yards are for market use. 427,000 cubic yards will be retained on site for backfilling purposes. 2.5 million cubic yards are to be imported for backfilling. The sand extraction and processing would occur Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Trucking operations for material sales and backfill import would occur Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The project would be required to make certain improvements to Willow Glen Drive prior to the beginning of the mining operations.
What about the Still Canyon Road?
This next slide, please. This map shows the project location and indicates the major phases of the operation. The extraction process would occur in 3 phases over the span of 10 years again, and the reclamation would occur in the 4th phase over 2 years. A reclamation plan is required in compliance with state law called the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act and the county's grading ordinance. Reclamation plans are required to ensure that the mining lands are restored. A revegetation plan is required for mitigation and to restore the Sweetwater River corridor. Reclaimed areas would be restored to open space, multi-use trails, and land suitable for uses allowed by the general plan and the existing zoning classifications. There's no specific proposal for future use of the property at this time, so the idea is to restore it to open space. And any future uses proposed would need to go through the permit process with the county. Okay, we're going to talk about the project description. Revisions to the draft EIR in the documents currently available for review include a reader's guide. That's the revised EIR includes this reader's guide to explain the changes between the previous EIR and the currently recirculated EIR. There's a project description that indicates the revisions that have been made to the project description. That's chapter 10, and the biological resources analysis, which is subchapter 2.2. There's also a summary chapter of the recirculated EIR that summarizes the revisions to the project description and the biological resources analysis. And then also recirculated with this document is an additional stormwater quality management plan for priority development projects. This describes how the project will comply with the state and county stormwater requirements. And there's also new information regarding the number of haul trips, truck haul trips, specifically after circulation of the draft environmental impact report. It was determined that an additional 58 trucks per day would be required to import suitable backfill material to achieve the project's proposed post-reclamation elevation. These additional trips are not disclosed, were not disclosed in the draft EIR, but they are in the recirculated draft EIR. So regarding the truck haul trips, there's 58 trips over a 10-year period of operation would be necessary for importing the maximum amount of backfill material. These 58 truck trips are in addition to 88 heavy-duty trucks per day identified in the EIR. The 58 truck trips include 58 inbound trucks bringing material to the mine for reclamation and 58 outbound trucks leaving the mining site. All the truck trips would occur outside of the peak hour or the rush hour. And these trips were evaluated in the environmental analysis, including the air quality, health risks, greenhouse gas emissions, noise, and traffic hazard sections. The recirculated EIR, thank you, is available for public review. Okay, sorry. Again, the recirculated draft EIR is available for public review. It's available online at the county website. There's a hard copy at the Rancho San Diego Library and at the Casa de Oro Library. And inside the sleeve of each of those copies is a flash drive of the documents if you prefer to look at them on the library computer, or if someone happens to use a hard copy, there's a flash drive. There's also a copy in our offices at the Operations Center in Green Mesa. And as Mark mentioned previously, the public review period has been extended by a week until August 21st at 4 p.m. Make sure to submit your comments ahead of the deadline so that they can be included in the final EIR and responded to. And before we turn it over to questions, we wanted to address a few questions that have been coming up so far during the recirculation. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Smith to cover the questions and our responses.
Thank you. Can you all hear me in the back okay? Okay, great. So thank you. I'm going to cover just a couple of common questions that have come up in the planning and the CEQA process. First, folks have been wondering what happens to their previous comments that were provided. So we do want to make it clear that we are in receipt of all of the comments that were submitted during the EIR public review period. That was the public review period that concluded in February of 2022. And we also want to confirm that formal written responses will be provided to those prior comments. So therefore, there's no need to resubmit those saved comments that you provided before. But if you do have new comments on the recirculated documents, please be sure to get those submitted by August 21st at 4 p.m. and those comments, as well as the prior comments, will all be responded to in the final EIR. Okay, and then in regards to next steps, so we've had a lot of questions about what happens after this public review circulation. So we will evaluate and prepare responses to all of the comments, as I mentioned. When the responses are finalized, we put together what's called a final EIR, and in that, any further changes between what is out for circulation now are shown in strikeout underlines so that the public can easily see where those additional changes were made. The responses will be made available to the public in advance of the Planning Commission hearing. Our goal is to provide those 1 month in advance of that public hearing. As Mark mentioned, the Planning Commission hearing is a noticed public hearing. Any members of the public can come and speak at those hearings. We do provide notice 10 days in advance of the public hearing. And the Planning Commission meets once a month on Fridays at the county's operations center in Kearney Mesa, so that's where the hearing will be held. We do anticipate that the project will probably move forward for consideration in the next calendar year. So the review process and providing responses typically takes 6 months to a year to complete. And then finally, so as Mark mentioned, the Planning Commission, they decide whether to approve or deny the project, but their decision is appealable to the Board of Supervisors. So typically a Board of Supervisors meeting would occur about 2 to 3 months after the Planning Commission. That's also a noticed public hearing, and you can attend and speak at that hearing as well. And then just to be clear, the Board of Supervisors decision, that's a final decision, and there are no further appeals from that point. And then finally, just reiterating how to participate and share your concerns about the project and the recirculated EIR. So again, to ensure your comments are included in the final EIR, they do need to be submitted in writing. As we mentioned, that can be by mail, email, or you can submit on the sheet that we've provided tonight. And again, all comments will be responded to. We're also here to assist, so as Mark mentioned, if you don't get an opportunity to talk tonight and you'd like to meet with county staff, we're available, please reach out and we're happy to meet with you. And then again, just please be sure to add your name and contact information to our contact sheet. If you are already receiving notices, you don't need to provide your contact information, but if you're not, please include it so that we can add you to our public distribution list so that you receive those future notices on the project. Thank you for attending, and I'll turn it back to Mark to start our Q&A.
So I mentioned this earlier, I just wanted to mention it again, that we did receive some requests from community members ahead of tonight's meeting to provide a presentation. If there aren't any concerns with that, I was going to hand it over to Elizabeth Burkhart and members of the community to speak.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. I'm chair of Stop Cottonwood Sand Mine, a nonprofit civic organization established in 2018 to fight against this horrific project that will do irreparable harm to native territory, the people in the surrounding area and beyond. I represent 14 members of the board of directors, as well as over 5,000 residents in our community. First, thank you for providing the opportunity for community members to comment this evening, and for moving the deadline for the written comments to August 21st. I will focus my comments only on the new information in the draft EIR, which includes a revised project description, traffic, biology, noise, and the stormwater quality management plan. The revised project description raises more questions. It was only after the circulation of the draft EIR that it was discovered that the proposed project would be required to import backfill material, adding an additional 58 truck trips per day, as well as a second conveyor. In addition, the stormwater management plan initially proposed was insufficient, addressing only the frontage improvements along Willow Glen Drive, rather than the entire sand mining operation. And the biological resources section needed to be completely redone, since the draft EIR missed several special status plant and animal species in their report. What other significant changes can the community expect during this process, we wonder? Traffic remains a significant impact that cannot be mitigated. In fact, the new information makes the traffic impacts worse. The recirculated documents indicate that an additional 58 truck trips will occur daily due to the need to haul the backfill material. This is on top of the 88 truck trips stated in the original draft EIR. This totals 147 round-trip truck trips daily, or 294 trucks either coming or leaving the sand mine location. They're going to be operating Monday through Friday from 9 to 3:30 or 6.5 hours a day. This means a large hauling truck will be traveling either to or from the project site every 1.3 minutes or 78 seconds. And that's on top of the trucks we already see in this neighborhood. The heavily traveled Hamashal Road, Willow Glen Drive, and Steel Canyon Road cannot handle this additional heavy use. The recirculated documents state that it was determined that the additional truck trips will not change the already determined less than significant impact. This statement is erroneous and makes no sense at all. Anyone who travels in the area by vehicle, bike, or on foot can tell you that without a sand mine nearby, Willow Glen Drive already experiences excessive truck trips due to Robertson's Ready Mix, located at 2094 Willow Glen Drive, and Hester's Granite Pit at 2268 Willow Glen Drive. The recirculated documents dismiss the fact that the Cottonwood sand mine heavy truck hauling will affect the community's streets, air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, health risks, and noise in the area. I would submit to you that the cumulative traffic impacts have not been adequately analyzed, and therefore an updated traffic analysis is needed to address not just the impacts from the proposed project, but the cumulative impacts of both truck and vehicle impacts as well. Additionally, if traffic surveys were conducted between 2020 and 2022, they must be dismissed and redone because they do not capture an accurate analysis of cumulative truck or any traffic impacts. Due to the unusual circumstances during the COVID-19 pandemic, traffic was changed and halted in many ways. Stay-at-home orders began on March 19 of 2020, and they weren't lifted until January 25th of 2021. We all can see that traffic is significantly different today in 2023 than it was during California's shutdown. The applicant's traffic study includes some data collected on August 30th, 2018, and other traffic data was collected on October 23rd, 2020. This date must be rejected since it is not an accurate depiction of pre- or post-COVID-19 pandemic traffic patterns. The applicant must conduct a new traffic study for any data to be valid. Biological resources remain a significant impact that cannot be mitigated. The recirculated documents conclude the project implementation could result in, quote, potentially significant impacts to sensitive plant and animal species, sensitive natural communities, and riparian habitat, jurisdictional wetland and non-wetland waters, and consistency with local policies, ordinances, and adopted plans protecting biological resources, unquote. There were 23 animal species identified as potentially being significantly impacted. Mitigation measures proposed involving relocation of species, removing their habitat by eliminating the trees and the plants, or having minimal setbacks and noise barriers are wholly inadequate. The report minimizes the fact that the project site is currently a vital and critical wildlife linkage corridor, connecting protected wildlife habitat near and adjacent to the project site. The Cottonwood Golf Club property is considered the missing link in a resilient and accessible open space network, protecting endangered species habitat, drinking water, and connections to the existing San Diego National Wildlife Refuge. A decade of project mining could cause permanent impacts affecting wildlife community health by fracturing and isolating wildlife communities. This property is zoned open space recreational to protect the land and its inhabitants. This commitment must be honored. Most mitigation measures proposed in the recirculated documents do not address the significant direct impacts to wildlife habitat during the project time span. Instead, what is described is mitigation after 10 years of mining has been done. The recirculated documents state that the project would ultimately contribute approximately 142.8 acres of preserved, rehabilitated, restored, and revegetated habitat to the linkage, which will be placed within a biological open space easement. This is not a viable mitigation strategy for significant impacts during years 1 through 10 of the project. The reclamation plan with a biological open space easement is a post-project deferred mitigation strategy, which must be rejected since it does not address the significant impacts to special status species during the project timeline. Noise to the surrounding area remains a significant impact that cannot be mitigated. The recirculated documents indicate that a second conveyor will be used to transport backfill material and that the mining operation noise is assessed as potentially significant. Mitigation measures indicated that only one area near to the sand mine location will have its proposed noise barrier increased from 8 feet to 12 feet. This potential barrier eyesore in one area will not mitigate the high level of cumulative noise experienced by all community residents around the sand mine location, especially residences at higher elevations. The stormwater quality management plan was revised, and we ask why. It is disheartening to see the applicant and the county miss so much that should have been in the draft EIR. Overall, this revised plan is very generic. It lacks specifics and focuses more on what the final product will look like, rather than how the water source, in the event of storms, not just a water transfer from Loveland, will be protected during the 10+ years of the mining operation. Also, there are substantial changes in this plan, and we will be very interested in the responses from both the Sweetwater Authority and the Regional Water Quality Control Board. We wonder if each agency reviewed and commented on the plan. Has the county addressed the impacts described in the letter from the Sweetwater Authority dated February 24, 2022? Does this revised stormwater quality management plan fully mitigate their concerns? The authority is an independent water district that depends on the Sweetwater River watershed and serves and provides drinking water to approximately 200,000 people living in Chula Vista, National City, and Bonita. Their concerns with the proposed mining operation include water quality, hydrology, and the authority's ability to transfer water from Loveland Reservoir through the Sweetwater River to the Sweetwater Reservoir and the Purdue plant. One of their water sources is the capture of local runoff in the Sweetwater River. How will this revised stormwater quality management plan protect this drinking water source? In conclusion, it appears that the focus in the recirculated draft EIR is more on the proposed reclamation plan for mitigation rather than the damage that will occur during the time of the mining operation and the horrible, irreparable harm to people, the neighborhood, and the environment. The recirculated draft EIR often uses the word temporary, and it states that ultimately, the project will leave the site suitable for uses allowed by the existing land use designation, with the site remaining as open space. There is no guarantee that the mining operation is limited to only 10 years. Just look at other mining operations in Lakeside, Grove McGrath Quarry on Humshaw Road, and Hester's Granite Pit, just down the road on Willow Glen Drive. Even after the mining is done, how long will the reclamation of the land really take? This process could take 10 to 20 years or longer, and even then, it will never, ever be the same. I want to again extend my thanks to the county for allowing Stop Cottonwood Sand Mine to present our feedback on the recirculated draft EIR. I would also like to thank all of the community members and local organizations that continue to work closely with us. And lastly, I would like to thank the members of the Board of Directors of Stop Cottonwood Sand Mine, and they include Dan Weber, Brian Lawrence, Barry Jantz, Diane Jacob, Jim Caputo, Sharon Cox, Zachary Spelling, Yosan Feathers, Linda Wilkes, Roxana Gores, Bob Collins, Lessa Ritzma, and Peter Anderson. Thank you.
individuals now who've put in a speaker slip. If anybody still wants to speak, please submit a slip. Just flag down one of the county staff members and they'll grab it from you. Okay, the next person that we had was Fred Jaju from the Steel Canyon Estates HOA, who requested to speak tonight.
Hello, excuse me. Good evening and thank you for calling me up to speak. I've been a resident in Rancho San Diego for 33 years. My father passed away actually on Willow Glen car accident in 1999. I wanted to come out on behalf of myself and my family and a lot of relatives that live in this area. 58 extra trips the county missed. I don't know, that's kind of suspicious. The fact that there's so many people here being a nuisance, no one's even discovered or explored that on behalf of the community here. And more importantly, this traffic, I have a wife and 5 kids, and I'm sure everybody has family that goes up and down Willow Glen and 7:30, 8 in the morning, these Robertson trucks fighting to get position. I just can't believe how the county overlooked all this, and to sit here and take it this far, it is very confusing to me, to a guy that's moved a little dirt up in Hamul, and I'm still not done with the project. And a project this magnitude to make it this far, it's, we need answers. So that's all I'm gonna say. The lady prior to me shared a lot of what I had in mind, and thank you very much for having us speak here. Thank you.
I did want to address that one comment that Fred just made about that there's some information that wasn't provided initially. I want to make sure it's clear. The reason that these documents are being recirculated is because there were changes to the project. These were things that the developer proposed to change that are the project that required additional analysis. The reason for the stormwater management plan, it was a request that the county received from the Regional Water Quality Control Board and the Sweetwater Authority identifying the need to do the plan. Hence, the county prepared the plan, and it's now available for those jurisdictions to review as well as the public. So the reason that these documents are being recirculated is it was driven by changes to the project and then requests from the public. So these aren't directly responding to issues and concerns that were raised. The next speaker I'd like to call is Josanne Feathers. Josanne.
So how can we trust the accuracy and credibility of the recirculation of the DEIR when the applicant and his consultants fail to recognize the need for an additional 3.75 million tons of backfill? The revised daily truck trip total is now 147, in addition to Robertson's, Hester's, and the grass trucks. They propose to excavate 79 acres west of Steel Canyon Road Bridge and approximately 100 acres upstream of the bridge, up to 40 feet below the ground surface. That's the same 30-year-old bridge that parents drive over twice a day to take their children to school half a mile up the road. They want to backfill that area with excavated material they can't sell. The dregs, like wash lines, along with inert debris imported from development projects, clean demolition materials, and possibly concrete, asphalt, and rock. What can possibly go wrong? They downplayed the 610-foot long and 20-foot high drop structure made of grouted riprap at the far east end of the project. This is what you see in an urban area like along the LA River, not adjacent to a scenic roadway in a rural area in a predominantly natural riverbed, just upstream from a 44,000-acre National Wildlife Refuge. There will be another drop structure east of Steel Canyon where Mexican Creek flows into the Sweetwater River. A permanent erosion control grouted riprap structure will be located on the west side of the Steel Canyon Road Bridge. Both the DEIR and recirculated DEIR included a specific detail for a tree well, but not sand mine looks like. If you haven't been there, you may want to check it because it's going to be a lot worse than this. And here is an example of grouted riprap. If you don't know what it looks like, it's horrible.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Aaron Fields. Aaron Fields. And then following Aaron will be Zachary Spelling. You can make your way down to it.
Hi, so I'm a current local resident and I'm also an attorney, and I wasn't sure if the group that's trying to stop the Cottonwood sand mine has looked into California Civil Code 3479, which is the statute for nuisance law, and I'm very concerned that individuals in our living around this particular area are going to be exposed to contaminants that are going to be injurious to their health. Now, the government and private industry, if they're engaging in operations which are actually interfering with the private use and enjoyment of personal property, that would, in my view, constitute nuisance under the statute that again is Civil Code 3479. And the diminishing value to the home property owners surrounding the area is going to be fairly significant as well. It's going to diminish home value. And in my view, that would be a reason to get a lawyer, land use attorney involved to look into nuisance law in this particular instance. The other thing that I have concerns about is that show that some of these particles that are going to be released from the mining operation actually have toxins that are known carcinogens to human health. And I'm not sure if there's other EPA statutes that can also be used if anyone has considered going to the Environmental Protection Agency and filing a complaint as well. Again, if you're going to try to stop this operation, it's going to require a lot more than just public citizens complaining. I would highly recommend that public citizens band together, try to get a land use attorney involved to try to stop this operation on the basis of nuisance law, as well as violations potentially of the EPA Act, Environmental Protection Agency involved in this as well. Finally, the other concern that I have is that you're engaging in a project that's going to cause irreparable damage to the environment. It's very short-sighted. It's going to interfere with individuals that are hiking. I love walking along that par 4 course, and having to have this, it's a visual nuisance. Again, that's also nuisance law. It's an eyesore, and it's going to result in noise, and that to me is also another basis for nuisance law as well to be employed here.
So my name is Zachary Spelling. I've lived in the whole area for 30 years. My wife and I are local real estate agents, and we work and live in this community. And this is the first project that has literally taken the words out of my mouth. The deeper I've gotten involved with the board of directors of the South Cottonwood Sand Mine Group, it's just shocking that this is allowed to be a proposal. I understand that what the county has said that they by law have to process this application. If and when this ultimately gets to the County Board of Supervisors, I hope that we all take the time between now and the deadline to put it in writing, the concerns that you have right now, so that those county supervisors can listen to their constituents and understand that each and every one of us in this room cares enough about this project that we took time out of our evening to come here. So I want to thank all of you for showing up and for making a difference in our community. And I want to thank the County of San Diego for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak. The one last thing I'd like to ask is, I wonder how many people would approve of a school being installed next to a current and running industrial sand mine? And I think I've heard a bunch of people say no way already in the audience. So why are we discussing putting in a sand mine next to 3 currently long-running schools? We're all standing right here at Hillsdale Middle School, Hampshire Elementary, and Steel Canyon High School. Our children deserve to be outside and be able to recreate, and silica is now becoming such an issue. The state of California is looking into silicosis amongst stone workers who grind on stone slabs that many people have in their homes. Those workers are getting sick with fatal diseases in their lungs. Our children could potentially be exposed to the exact same cause of those fatal lung diseases just going outside on the playground every day with the massive silt they'll be dealing with. So I just ask you one more time, would we put a school next to a sand mine? And if the answer is no, why are we putting a sand mine next to a school?
And then next over is Royce Ambler, if you can make your way down.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, I'm Dr. Peter Anderson. I'm a volunteer officer of Sierra Club San Diego, and I represent 30,000 members and associates of the San Diego Sierra Club. At every level that the Sierra Club has considered, there's 3 different levels, we have unanimously opposed the Cottonwood sand mine. It is an insult to the community. It is destructive to the environment for so many reasons. It will have massive introduction of noise into an otherwise quiet neighborhood. There'll be substantial increases in traffic, including, as you've heard, large haul trucks rumbling through the neighborhood. It's going to increase air pollution and possibly both fugitive dust, which has been pointed out as a carcinogen, and valley fever, which can be transmitted via airborne particulates from sand mining operations. It's going to increase water pollution in the Sweetwater River, which drains into Sweetwater Reservoir, a water source for 250,000 residents of San Diego County. It's also going to create greenhouse gas, which busts the county's climate action plan. More trucks, more traffic, more greenhouse gas, and more global warming. In case you haven't noticed, global warming is an issue. Okay, now with respect to this particular EIR, they failed to look at the cumulative impacts on traffic of this project and other projects in the future. What we need is a traffic analysis and, as Elizabeth pointed out, a more contemporary analysis, not one during the pandemic when nobody was driving, but a current one, to ascertain the cumulative impacts of this project and other projects in the vicinity. In terms of biology, they also surveyed biology in the wrong time period. All the biological surveys, and there were several of them, were conducted prior to the great rainy winter we had this winter. I'll guarantee you, when they look at plant and animal species, they're much more numerous presently. We call for a revised biological impact report during a normal time, not an abnormal time. Likewise, there are substantial traffic impacts. We have not seen a good analysis in the biological report of the wildlife corridor, which runs from the San Diego National Wildlife Refuge to the Beginning Mountain Ecological Reserve, a very biologically sensitive area. And I believe that mitigation for this is totally inaccurate, as I will say in a letter in writing. Let me just wrap up by quoting from the revised EIR. It says, together, the draft EIR and the recirculated draft EIR identify significant impacts to the following, reiterate, significant impacts to the following factors: aesthetics, biological resources, cultural resources, noise, paleontological resources, and tribal cultural resources. Impacts to aesthetics, even with the mitigation measures, would remain significant and unavoidable. Now, we call on Mark, who's a fair guy, I've worked with him previously, to do a detailed staff report, and for the staff to recommend against this to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Next we'll have Roxana Gort, if you can make your way down.
Good evening, my name is Roy Stamper, and I live just west of the sand plant on Hammershell. That's been an eyesore, and if that's what the Cottonwood area is going to look like, you're going to probably want to move. My problem with it is that I sweep we have hardwood floors throughout. I sweep the floor once a week, and I make a dinner plate size pile of silica and mica. And those are the particulates that may have already been spoken about. But hearing everybody that's here tonight, and you hear about the valley fever, and we happen to know somebody that had dirt brought in from a contractor, contracted it, and he passed away. So you don't want that stuff in the air. I don't know how old that plant is on Hammershell. I know I'm 5 miles away and I'm still getting that stuff. And one of the things driving here tonight, if most of you had to get here by car, you probably know that San Diego County roads are not the best shape. It was a washboard coming down Avocado, coming up Square Peg. And if you think those trucks are going to put a worse road in, it's going to happen. And I hope everybody really does put something in writing and sends it to the board. And it's the committee that doesn't have to approve it and send it up to the county. So that's where I'd like to see it stopped. Thank you.
Next will be Robert Horstman. Robert Horstman.
I live on Willow Glen Drive across from Robertson's and Hester's Quarry since 1977. At the beginning of August 2022, I was having high fevers every day. I had endless coughing and mucus, chills, loss of appetite, hair loss, body aches and pains. I had a red rash on my lower legs. My feet and legs were so swollen, so bad that I could hardly walk. I had joint pain, fatigue, depression, insomnia, vertigo, and weight loss. I really thought I was going to pass away. After several emergency room visits and a 3-day stay in the hospital, I was diagnosed with pneumonia, erythema nodosum, and Epstein-Barr virus. But still, I was sick in January, and I asked myself, why am I still sick? There had been a lot more dust from the quarry, plus it was all over the road from the trucks tracking it out of the plant on Willow Glen Drive. I asked my doctor to test me for valley fever. I was shocked. Results from the blood test were positive for cocci, and it's in my lungs. Don't let anyone tell you valley fever is no big deal. It's real, and it's devastating. If people or animals inhale cocci, they will get this incurable disease. It's a fungus that grows in the soil and sand. If Cottonwood Golf Course is allowed to mine sand, not only will the dust and dirt go into the air, by mining it, it will be kicked up and dragged out onto the roadway from the endless truck traffic. They will tell you the trucks have tarps, but it's not like the trucks are covered in saran wrap. The tarps are wide open on the sides. Usually the wind blows east. So if they're allowed to mine, epoxy will travel up the valley to all of our homes. We need to stop this before anyone else gets this horrible disease, valley fever.
And then next will be Cindy Denny. Cindy Denny.
Hello, my name is Robert Horstman. I've lived out in this area for about 10 years. I love it. It's quiet, it's peaceful, friendly. You hear a little drawl here. I'm from Texas, so I like friendly people. But you know what? I'm kind of worried about this deal. I'm a retired banker. I was in the business for about 50 years in San Diego. And I'm looking at this reclamation part. What is the story there? Reclamation 10 years down the road? What are we going to have? They're going to promise to do something 10 years from now? What we need to do is get a letter of credit from this outfit if it happens. We need a letter of credit that's going to pay for all these things that we're talking about that are going to be reclaimed in 10 years from now. What are they going to look like? What is our highway going to look like? What damage is going to be done to families? That's important. Let these guys they're talking about making hundreds of millions of dollars digging our neighborhood up and raising a lot of Cain and hell out here. So, you know what? Let's talk to the county. They're working hard. They should have a set-aside deal that says, okay, if you make $10 million this year, you set aside $1 million, $2 million. We need a deal with, if this deal gets done. We need to understand what's going to be there when it's all said and done, and how said and done is going to be paid for. Thank you.
Next one is Sharon Cox. Sharon Cox.
Hi, I'm Cindy Denny. I've been in the area, in the community since 1994. We like it for the same reason the prior gentleman said. I just want to bring in a few things, which is I boarded my horse in Lakeside for like 30 years. Lakeside is nothing but a washboard of mines, and not one mining operation has completed a reclamation after it got done with its operation. So you can expect that will not be accomplished here either. They won't do it, they didn't do it in any other places, and it won't happen here either, so we will be stuck with this eyesore. And make no mistake, it's about money. And the one thing that preserves our aquifer, that filters our water, is the thing they want to mine, which is the sand. So what are they going to put in? They're going to put in something that's equal to the sand that filters our aquifer now and catches our water? No, it's going to be total garbage, and they're going to contaminate everything. I really hope that the planning group recommends against this project, because if they don't, then it's about the money, folks, and we have to just fight it and not let this happen. Thank you.
Next we have Mark Samsonson.
Hi, everybody. As of 5 minutes ago, I finished 6 rounds of chemo. And I'm just starting to feel better. I'm starting to get out. I'm starting to walk. I'm starting to play with my grandkids again. If this sand mine goes in, it is not going to only jeopardize my health and my continued recuperation, but it's going to affect every one of you. Raise your hand if you or a loved one have somebody in your family that will be drastically affected health-wise by this sand mine. Everybody. This is something we have to stop. These second conveyor belt, that just means more dust, something that they haven't even talked about. The additional trucks, all the additional sand that is going to be out. And as everybody's talked about, this is silica, this is glass that goes into our lungs. So if we want to preserve our livelihoods, our health, our grandkids, we've got to stop this. I'm so glad you're all here. Sorry, I'm hiding in the back trying to keep my mask on. Stay healthy. Thank you.
Next we'll have Jerry Petchel. Jerry Petchel.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Samanson. I'm also a local president of a bike club that's stationed here in Rancho, San Diego. And we have about 80 riders that often you probably see us on Willow Glen. And I don't understand all of this. I think we're here, the county people that we represent, County Board of Supervisors, are here to represent us. I think we have enough people here right away to just say no and make it obvious to them that this isn't going to happen. A lot of government entities aren't really good with money. I'm sure they're looking for different revenue streams to come in here. But I also have a question on the Robertson mines. I believe that the permits will be the same for the Robinson mine as it will be for the Cottonwood mines. You said 9:30 or 9 to 3:30. Right now, I see trucks leaving Robertson's at 6:30. Coming back and I know a lot of you have too, and I'm on the bike there all the time on Willow Glen. They don't clean the roads very good, but that's also part of the county's responsibility that I'm sure they're getting paid for Robertson to do. But They're coming back at 8:15, 8:30. I follow them sometime on the 94 at 8:20, and they're still headed back to the station. And we're not even talking about Saturdays and Sundays. So if you think they're gonna let them get away with this 57 trips or whatever it is, it's not gonna happen because the Robertsons right now are violating the law. I have a lot of information here. I've been an owner here for a long time. I live in the Port of Madera neighborhood near the corner of Steel Canyon and Willowwood. I've got many brochures here that talk about we're a master plan community. I have gone through this and it talks about the master plan here. I don't see anything about mining. In fact, on my neighborhood says any mining, taking sand, anything out of the ground is not permitted. This is a master plan community. I just have a couple lines here. I'm just going to read one part of the page here, and then I'll cut it off here. It says, as you look around a new community full of modern homes and conveniences, it's easy to forget about the others this place made home as early as 10,000 BC. There were tribes of hunters and gatherers living off the land for thousands of years until the Spanish friars came in the area and it fell under the control of a mission in San Diego. It says over the years the property has evolved under a succession of owners, growing from prosperous farmland to an established self-contained community now known as Rancho San Diego. It talks about the 100-year-old trees, the Cottonwood golf course, and what a great community this is for golfing. So I wish they would return it. Golfing is popular again, and I know all the other golf courses in the area are very profitable at this time. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Next will be Rose Steinhardt. Rose Steinhardt.
Great segue into what I'm about to propose. Okay, let's think outside the box. And like he just said, this is a golfing area. We had 3 golf courses. My son's a developer. We need investors. Why don't we match the developer here who wants to make a lot of money? And number 2, if this does not go through, if the supervisors pass this, you know somebody's getting a kickback. And this thing is going to make a lot of money. Because not only are they buying the property, but they're making money off of all this dirt to our expense. So if there's any investors out there want to restore Cottonwood Golf Course to its pristine beauty, we're open to. My son's, like I said, a developer. He's looking into it. Oh, and we want to know who the owner of Cottonwood is. We're trying to get in touch with them, and there's no way that he's tried. So is that possible? Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, there was a question about the information regarding the ownership. Yeah, part of the application process involves disclosing the owner, their contact information, and then also the applicant that's applied for the permit with the county. That information is all publicly available. If anybody wants a copy of it, all you have to do is put in a request and we can provide it. Next will be Linda Wilkes. Linda Wilkes.
Hi, good evening. It's so nice to see so many people here. Please keep coming back. I'm just a concerned citizen. I've been in the neighborhood for about 20 years. Thank you. I am vehemently opposed to this project. I just read an article on the Yale University website about sand mine projects. This is, and I quote, "It is the least regulated and quite possibly the most corrupt and environmentally destructive industry." I do not want this project in my neighborhood, or any neighborhood. I do not want my community to suffer from the negative effects of silica. I do not want our natural resources, waterways, animal habitats to be raped and polluted. Every living thing has a right to thrive, and this project will only create suffering. I do not want more industrial trucks on the road that would put the many cyclists, pedestrians, motorists, school children, and our sensitive environment in harm's way, not to mention harmful noise pollution. This has to stop, and I will forever be grateful to our community leaders, educators, and neighbors who resist and refuse any project that is not compatible with this neighborhood. I'm done.
Next will be Brittany Waddell.
I'd like to just say for a second that I lived for 44 years having lived for 44 years across from the Hester Granite Pit. One of the things that they get away with, and now I'm not an attorney, but one of the things that they always get away with is that they claim that they're grandfather clause. Well, it's my understanding that grandfather clause has only to do with the use of the land, not having anything to do with things like when they can come and go pertaining to being on the roadways. But they always use this grandfather clause as the excuse for getting away with everything. And this is one of the reasons why many of us that have put up with this for so many years totally do not want this Cottonwood sand mine to go into effect. And the traffic on the roads is just a really, really bad thing. And it's something that on an everyday basis is not a good thing. They're not going to be able to do anything with that road, really, to be able to fix it so that it's going to be safe and be a situation where you can make a right-hand turn onto the Steel Canyon Bridge and get up into Hamul, which would leave, in other words, the people up in Hamul basically waiting for medical services until they come the long way around. And that is another situation that is totally unacceptable. There are many people that claim also that this community does nothing for the construction industry. That is a falsehood. The construction industry has been helped along by the fact that there was the Sloan Canyon sand mine and the Gene C. Taylor sand mine in the past. And of course now, again, we have the Superior sand mine, quarry, and the Hester quarry. And the bottom line with that is, of course, we are contributing because of that to the construction industry. So it's not like we're totally not doing anything to help the construction industry, but this is something that has to be held in perspective. And the bottom line is that this is not a good plan. It's the wrong time, the wrong place, and totally the wrong project. Thank you.
Next we'll have Breton Peace.
Hello everybody. My name is Brittany Waddell. I reviewed the Cottonwood Sand Mine Project, revised draft EIR, and based on my review, I'm submitting the following comments to the record. The project, as described, contains significant and unmitigatable impacts that are inconsistent with several applicable policies, goals, and plans at the federal, state, and local levels. The project does not provide significant benefit to the public interest to warrant approval of these significant impacts and inconsistencies. This project is for private profit at public expense. I'd like to raise a few high-level concerns for your consideration today and will submit more detailed comments in written format. First, in regard to proposed mitigation measures. The proposed mitigation measures are vague, lack prudent details to demonstrate that significant impacts will be reduced, are not enforceable, and lack performance standards. CEQA requires public lead agencies to impose feasible mitigation measures as part of the approval of a project in order to substantially lessen or avoid significant adverse impacts. A complete mitigation measure will include details about what needs to be done, how it will be done, who's responsible, and when it needs to be done, and will be fully enforceable and legally binding. Mitigation measures should be clearly written and provide all information necessary for successful implementation via a monitoring, mitigation, and reporting program, or MMRP, which this draft EIR lacks. The applicant needs to develop this important plan now during the public review process and not after approval. The importance of public review of such broad mitigation measures should not be neglected. In regards to air quality and greenhouse gas, the draft EIR justifies air quality impacts to sensitive receptors in this community like schools and residences, with claims that the project would result in a net reduction of sand transport VMT in the region, and therefore an overall reduction in the related aggregate hauling emissions, attempting to justify the health impacts and residential cancer burdens that the residents in this community will bear. This is an egregious attempt to continue to shift these impacts onto our most vulnerable in the community. Could the same argument be presented in more affluent areas of the country, or of the county? Excuse me. The draft EIR fails to account for, analyze, and mitigate the disproportionate effect the proposal will have on sensitive receptors within our community. A proper impact analysis on the cumulative effects of these groups must be conducted, and the effects must be mitigated before the project can move forward. The air quality impact analysis is insufficient and does not fully capture the project's impacts and effects on the community. The draft EIR states that the quantity, duration, and intensity of construction activity has an effect on the overall amount of construction emissions. But the air quality technical analysis is not comprehensive and does not include basic construction support equipment like generators, which are some of the most highest emitting equipment types. The applicant needs to revise the air quality analysis to include a complete and comprehensive estimate of air quality impacts, also to include revisions to the cumulative impact on air quality resulting from this project and nearby projects, and all claims must be substantiated by evidence, which this draft EIR also lacks. One last thing. I just wanted to highlight the concerns brought up by others in regards to backfill material and its quality. The draft EIR analysis should be revised to include specifications on what can be used as backfill, not essentially making this area a landfill. It needs to be restored to provide for beneficial use, and the details on how that is expected to occur is not currently included, and the EIR needs to be revised to address that. Thank you.
Next will be Joe Duncan.
Hi, my name is Brett Peace. I was in the first graduating class of Hillsdale Middle School. I live on Heatherwood Drive, right on the 16th hole of the course that is no longer a golf course. There's not two golf courses. There's a wildlife preserve and a homeless encampment. So I'm picking up needles all the time back there. It's horrendous. But I chose to come back to this community and raise my kids. I live in the home I grew up in. So I coach in Humboldt Little League. So yes, this is personal. I'd like to say that I'm among the homeowners who would be most directly impacted. That's not true. We're all here because it's a great community, right? It's a semi-rural community. It's peaceful. So a lot of people touched on, I think, the important things. I want to hit on 5 that I don't think have been touched on. In my life, I am the general counsel for something called Preservation Ranch, which is a partnership in the Mojave between the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Department of Defense, the Bureau of Land Management, and groups like the Sierra Club. We have spent 12 years and tens of millions of dollars to acquire lands that connect wildlife preserves and areas of environmental concern. And here we are in San Diego, and we're going to destroy them. It makes no sense. Everywhere else, we're trying to create these connections for wildlife, and the EIR is fundamentally flawed. There is no analysis of species connectivity between these different areas. Moving on. Michael Schlesinger is not a property owner, he's a lender. Somebody made the comment that you wouldn't put a school next to a sand mine. Michael Schlesinger doesn't care. He foreclosed on this golf course. He was a lender. This was not a project that was pursued by developers to find the right place to mine. This was a project that was foreclosed on, and he said, what can I get away with? He'd build a munitions plant if we allowed him to. All right, it's time to call out the name. The name is Michael Schlesinger. His consultants are Maddie Kilkenny, people who run around this town and pretending to care about the environment. They're the ones who are trying to tear it up. Let's be honest about that. He hasn't dropped the chicken manure, he hasn't burned down the clubhouse, but this is a rule. This is Rancho San Diego. Bring it on. We're ready. I hope our elected officials are as well. Finally, there is just factual inaccuracies. So I have the footage. 4 years ago, they went out in the middle of the night with generators and they drained the waters. They went out to eliminate waters. Okay? So there again, the air is fundamentally flawed. That Lakes course was called the Lakes course. This has been mined before, people. I know. I lived here. I got married on the 16th hole. That's it. So what they're tearing up now is previously mitigated land. right? We've already been through the sand mine. So the idea that this was created in 1960 is not true. It was like 20 years ago when they created all those lakes. I kept all the signs, I'll bring them. It was called the lakes. Where are the lakes? I can tell you where the tortoises went. They drained the ponds and they killed them. And I have the footage. So let's be honest about what this is. We're ready to fight. Thank you for your time.
One of the first speakers tonight said that we need to get legal representation. I don't know if we have legal representation. We can tell each other forever how horrible and monstrous this project is. The idea of dumping the sand mine in the middle of a residential area with schools close by, I mean, it's just unconscionable. It's terrible that we're this far and still waiting and talking to each other about how awful it is. I would like to second the recommendation made earlier by the distinguished speaker saying that we need to get a nasty B attorney who will beat the hell out of these crooks before they destroy our neighborhood. I don't know, this is the same guy that to get back with the local people, as the last speakers mentioned, dumped tons of chicken manure all over a golf course next to homes, just to get back with them, just to be annoying, just to be difficult. I'm afraid that we're going to continue to comment on the EIR, we'll go to the county, maybe they'll send it back, maybe we'll do more comments, maybe we'll talk about whether or not they're really going to do anything in 10 years. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything that will stop them in 10 years from saying, hey, there's a lot of sand left there. We need to do this for another 5 years. Take it all sand. This can't happen. But they're going to do it. I think it's probably going to get approved because there's a lot of money in this. Okay? There's tons of money. And we need the sand to build roads. That's going to be the argument. We've got to fight them legally. As to how we pay for it, we can sit back and let it go in and all watch our homes go down $100,000, $200,000. But you drive in to an open house, go past this thing, this sand mine on a Sunday, and buy a home here? I wouldn't. And as far as 10 years around, I don't see a whole lot of people a lot younger than me. We really want to wait this out for 10 years. You want to spend the next 10 years of your life thinking, gee, I hope this 10 years goes fast, and I hope they really do this undescribed reclamation project. We don't want to do that. I think we've got to fight them on their own terms. So, I don't know how we're going to raise the money, but again, if you want to take the $100,000, $200,000 your house is going to go down by, and you can put in 10 of that, we can get a real bulldog attorney. And I'm sorry to disparage attorneys. My son's an attorney, my brother's an attorney. I love attorneys. We need one.
One more time for Lynn Schneider. Stephanie Bertho. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Stephanie Bertho. And then Alan Hillentu.
Hi, I'm just a concerned mother. My home is right behind the Cottonwood proposed area up on the hillside. I overlook the valley. My son's elementary school is right next door. His middle school will be here. So whether he's at home, whether he's at school, whether he's going to be driving to and from, whether we go to the grocery store, he's going to be inhaling all of these potentially cancerous materials. He can't play outside at home or play outside in his school. Him and his friends, his little brother. All of the things, the home, the land impact, but just the health. And I can't believe that I live in San Diego. I was born and raised here in California, and I have to worry about that. I thought I was protected. So that's it. Thank you.
Next we'll have Brad Monroe.
I contacted Marie Walden, our assembly person, and she didn't know anything about this going on, so I sent her the information. But maybe we should go to our Senator Brian Jones or, take it to the next level. I'm forgetting a lawyer or investors or something. Thank you.
I'm Alan Valantu. I've been resident of this community my whole life. I'm a proud member of the Chaldean community, which is a Catholic Christian minority that comes from Iraq. As a first-generation American, it is embarrassing to see my parents risk everything and leave a country full of war, only to settle here and have to fight new wars with politics, contracts, and bulldozers. There are many Chaldeans in this community and across East County that contribute to the local economy and also bring diversity, which is part of what has built America. The adverse effects the sand mine operation would have either already been mentioned or will be mentioned. I know our Chaldean members plan on residing here long term, including myself. And all of our churches, families, small businesses are here, and bringing a sand mine will not only hurt our local economy and culture, but destroy the identity and social fabric of a community we've been so proud to be a part of. Thank you for your time.
Next will be Tom Courtney. Tom Courtney.
Hi, my name is Brad Monroe. I'm Vice President of the Board of Trustees for the Grossmont Queen Maca Community College District. So I'm here tonight speaking as a resident of the community. I live in the Paso Tiempo development. Our daughter attended Amish Elementary in here at Hillsdale. She was in that first classes at Amish Elementary, and many of her classmates walked to and from school across a bridge that's now going to be right in the middle of a sand mine. You can't tell me that's a healthy alternative. I don't see anything in the plans about the developer paying for buses for all the children that have to walk to and from that school. And it's surprising that actually part of that sand mine is only a little over 1,000 feet from that elementary school. And it's right adjacent to a now unused health facility. Now that health facility could reopen, what's that going to do? So I don't understand why this could even get to this point, and I urge both the staff and our Board of Trustees, our Board of Supervisors, to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Calling Tom Courtney one more time, and then Janessa Goldbeck. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Janessa Goldbeck. I'm running to be your next supervisor, and I'm here to tell you that I stand in firm opposition to the Cottonwood sand mine, and I would vote against it if it gets that far. There are so many people here who have so much more technical expertise on this. I will say I've spent my career fighting for conservation of public lands. We had to fight the presidential administration against mining the Grand Canyon, if you can believe that. It is imperative to our communities, to our kids, that we have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink. I fought for this at the federal level, at the state level, and I will fight for it as your next Board of Supervisor. Thank you.
Next we have Mark Booth. Mark Booth. And then following Mark will be Mike Bajoa. Mike Bajoa, sorry if I mispronounced it.
Hi, I'm Mark Booth, and I live in Rancho San Diego for about 35 years. And I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit because I have a little bit of experience with this. Even if the staff recommends not approving this project, it's still going to go before the Planning Commission. And it's really heartening to see how many people showed up here tonight. But the deck's stacked against you because that Planning Commission meeting's on a Friday during the middle of the workday. So it's going to make it harder for you to show up, but we need to show up there too. Because the Board of Supervisors need to see this kind of community turnout at the Planning Commission meeting so that if it's appealed to the Board of Supervisors, they have a basis for rejecting it. So please, sometime in the future, it looks like 2024, make the time to go to that planning commission meeting.
And then it's Sanan Shataya? Next.
My name is Mike Bajua. I'm a licensed civil engineer with 30 years experience. I just retired from the city of San Diego 3 years ago. I have a few comments about this project. I understand the owner is applying to this project as a major use permit for allowed use. I don't know when the code, when the city, when the county ordinance or the municipal code for the county was written. Probably was written 50 years ago when this area was all vacant, but right now it's in the heart of residential area. I know a friend that his house is only, his bedroom 100 feet from this project, 100 feet. So that should not be allowed. The county supervisor, I suggest them to take a look at that, evaluate that, and shut this kind of use, whether there is major use permit or not. This shouldn't be allowed use. That's one issue that I want to talk about. Another issue is about EIR. And me as an engineer, I spent some time on this EIR. A few things I noticed that there is some holes in it. The traffic is very poor written, and they are using the verbiage vehicle mileage travel. Vehicle mileage travel means, you know, if you buy sand from here 2 miles away, you go set the environment because you're not buying it 100 miles away because those trucks will generate pollution. This project will generate way more pollution than those vehicles that come 50 miles away when I buy sand. Plus, we don't need a lot of sand in our community. We need some, we need certain, but not to have this in the neighborhood, in our neighborhood. Other issue is in the traffic, the EIR. I noticed, you know, some consultants, you know, they should have more ethics when they write report. I see one consultant, another person, let me impact on that entity, that firm or person, but he's writing a report about hydrology. That's one area. The same person or the same firm is writing a report about site distance. That's traffic engineering. I see like here is like, there's a doctor, he's like GI doctor is operating on your brain. That's two different. So that's not ethical. In my opinion, that's not ethical. That site distance, even yes, just a few pictures from the Google map and justifying the project. That could cause many accidents. There's no traffic signal identified. So would be major accident here. I'm not saying that let's go for that, even if they put the signal, but there's too many holes in that EIR, and mainly environmental issues. Thank you.
One more time for Sanan Shataya. Sanan's here, come on down. Next we have David Nichols. Beth Brenson. Sorry.
I didn't plan on speaking tonight, so I apologize if I'm not as polished as a lot of the other speakers. 37 years ago, I camped out for a week for my Fieldstone home. At the time, there was no Ralph's, Target, etc. out here. We loved it, and I've continued to love it. I've raised both my kids out here. My grandchild went to school out here. When I moved in and when we signed our mortgage papers, one of the things is there was a disclosure, about the McGrath quarry, and we had no idea where it was. No idea, even though it was just over the hill from our house. Over the years, it's moved and moved and moved, and it's been almost in back of our house. The noise, I retired in 2016, so I've never been home during the day. Well, I'm amazed at the noise that occurs during the day where I don't even want to be out in my front or my backyard. I'm amazed at the amount of dirt, which I always knew about, that I can't even keep my front windows open in my house because it's so dusty and dirty. I can't even imagine being the residents who live directly on the other side of the hill. I'm up a little bit, so I know that's why I get a lot of the noise. A supermarket, Ralph's, Albertsons, was needed by the community. The Target has been fine. It's been nice to have a movie theater out here. To have a sand mine put in where they want to put it, where it's going to impact kids, and I'm a retired teacher, and I can tell you how many kids suffer from allergies, asthma, etc. The thought of them having been, of the impact of that on them is unconscionable. So thank you all for being here, and I would like to thank our candidate for the Board of Supervisors for being here. I don't know who else is here, but we appreciate it because you are going to be our voice.
Next will be Robert Hatton. And if there's anyone else that would like to speak or has a question tonight, please submit a speaker slip.
Hello, my name is David Nichols. I live on Greystone Drive. My father, Bob Nichols, as some of you may know, was the original owner of Greystone. He published the Steel Canyon News, for those who can remember that. He died in 2017, and I inherited his house, so I'm now a resident. And one of the first things that I learned when I moved here is that they're going to build a sand mine in the middle of our community. And I said, oh, they're not going to do that. Even in California, they're not going to do that. But it seems to me that it's making some progress. And so I just want to make sure that we all show exactly what we feel about this. So anyone who opposes the sand mine, I'd ask you just to stand up for a second. Just stand up. All right, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Now, let's just try this again. We just want to say two things. It goes like this. If you're an elected official and you support the sand mine, that's the first part. Let's do that. If you're an elected official and you support the sand mine, that was terrible. Come on. If you're an elected official and you support the sand mine, the next part is you're going down in the next election. All right, let's try it again. If you're an elected official and you support the sand mine, you're going down in the next election. Very good. Now, I'd also point out that there are a lot of people here tonight, but there are also a lot of people who couldn't make it. And I would just say that for anyone who looks at this crowd, there's 10 more people behind them who weren't here today. Now, when I thought about coming to this meeting, people said, stay to the facts. Okay. Facts. Traffic, dust, or whatever. But here's the fact I want to say. If you're an elected official and you don't support your constituents, you are going down in the next election.
Next we'll have Monica Montgomery Stepp.
Thank God for the smart people who reviewed that EIR. It was mentioned earlier that we should associate or become familiar with the Sweetwater Authority and how they are impacted by this. And for those of you who followed the draining of Loveland Reservoir up in Alpine, did anybody hear? Yeah. A couple of interesting points. Loveland was drained, the community really came up in arms about it. We went to a couple of meetings. The first ones, we went to the Alpine community meeting, and they blew us off. It was almost rude. In the end, we ended up, the group prevailed, and Loveland backed off of the draining of the reservoir in the future below that certain level. But what was really illuminating was, in the course of this, we found out that we don't have any ally at Sweetwater Authority or the Loveland Reservoir people. Why? Well, it came out that Loveland has done a study on sand mining. This was a shock to a lot of people, to me, myself included. So now put the pieces together. And here's the other part I'll mention. We now know that Sweetwater Reservoir is also planning to do sand mining. True story. There's a gentleman named Russell who's on Nextdoor. He spearheaded it. Thank God for him. So Loveland backed off. They took out the sand mining component of their reservoir as well. So now put the pieces together, and what you see, if you connect the dots of Loveland wanting to do sand mining, draining to Deadpool. It came to me finally. Draining to Deadpool, letting that whole beautiful ecological wonder diminish to the point where now the Cottonwood sand mine becomes more feasible. There's already the impact. We have no water. Well, we stopped that. So what I'm saying is, there's a connection. For the smart people that understand this stuff, please connect the dots. Loveland wanting to sand mine, Cottonwood sand mine, and Sweetwater wanting to sand mine. All in the same river channel. Thank you goes out to Brian Jones. He wrote a very persuasive letter that was read at the meeting. And along with the community opposition, and it was just like this, don't give up. Let's contact our representatives. Let's keep going. And as the gentleman said, I'll do it at the planning meeting. Take it off work. It's worth it. There's nothing more important than this to our future in this community. Thank you.
Next will be Connie Heggie. Connie Heggie.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am Monica Montgomery Stepp, and I just wanted to stop by to make sure that you all know that I oppose the Cottonwood sand mine. I have opposed it since I first heard of it. I have been honored to hold the title, sort of an informal title, of the People's Council member over in San Diego. And what that means is that I put the people first and what they believe. And when I look out at you all and see this effort that you have had to organize, unfortunately you've had to organize it, but you have the strength to organize it and come together. I'm very encouraged about the outcome of this. So I just want you to know I'm with you, and I look forward to having more conversations, but from the very beginning, since I first heard of it, I opposed it, and that will not change. So thank you very much.
You guys are all making a difference because there are representatives here of the guy who wants to rape the land. So you guys are making a difference. And hopefully those representatives will put it in their heart to go and look, because I've been here 30 years. My daughter came to the school, Hammershaw, Still Canyon, and I have now my horse that is at Iron Oak, and I get to ride in 11,000 acres of the wildlife. And it's beautiful. Because of the rain, there's flowers that my husband and I could not see when we went to the desert. This is wildlife. My husband's father, who was in the Navy 96 years ago, drove his vehicle, off-road vehicle out here. Jean Imishu, who owned this whole area, I got to meet her, and you know, she's passed away, but she owned all this land. And I have been here where there was nothing but some houses on top of the hill. So I've seen it change a lot, and I moved out here because I love this community, and we're gonna show the man who wants to RAPE the land that we care, and he needs to go elsewhere. And too bad he's not here. You know, just shows you how many, what he has between his legs.
Last request for Lynn Schneider. If Lynn's still here and would like to speak, come on down. Okay, let's see anybody. All right, well, is there anyone else that wants to speak that didn't have an opportunity tonight? Please just raise your hand and come on down. Come on down, sir.
My name is Bob Collins. I've been in this neighborhood since '85. Been heavily involved with park development. Was a watershed manager for the city of San Diego, so I think I have some experience in this area. The Sweetwater River watershed is the most pristine watershed in the county of San Diego. There's 11 of them. This is the one that's mostly untouched. We have this sandline operation. It's going to be a blight. Simple as that. If you go on our website, you can see what the before and after looks like. But for you people in the audience, you got kids going to Hammersmith Elementary. I want to hear from you. Because I want to go to the board of the Cone Valley Union School District to take a position. But I can't do it without your help. The same thing for the Rosemont Union School District. This is just too important to just pass on. We can beat this guy, but it's going to take quite an effort. Like I said, I've been here since '85. I've never seen the community come out and support like it has for this project. And you should be applauded for it. But we're not only trying to save this for ourselves, but for the next generation. They can mine cement anywhere. You can leave here. If you look at what the report said, it said this is really an ideal place to have it. You got residents from neighborhoods on either side. You know, and why don't you do it in a place where you can't reclaim it? This property can be reclaimed. It's just that you have to wait 10, 15 years before it happens. And I've worked with sand miners. I haven't found a good one yet. So we got to show up, people. We'll try to get the information to you when this thing's going to go to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. One other thing I want to interject here. Back in 2008, the board took an action. San Diego Board of Supervisors took an action to expand the boundaries of the Sweetwater River Water Park from the dam on Sweetwater all the way up to the hiking trail. Unfortunately, they dropped the ball because had they passed that, you know, I would think that would have stopped any possibility of sand mining in a park area. So that was presented to the county, and I'd like for them to respond, you know, to that effort, and I hope that they get that effort back underway. Thanks for your time.
Anyone else that would like to speak before we end the meeting tonight? Please come on down if you haven't spoken.
Hi, my name is Larry Olds, and I have been aware of the removal in the area since the 60s. I remember when Steel Canyon was a little bitty windy road going up in the hill. And to hear and see what's going on today, I just have two questions. First question, with everyone here, and knowing the community does not want this, why has this gotten to this point, period? second question I have is why is our representative, Joel Anderson, not here listening to Thank you very much.
Ma'am, did you want to come down and speak, or? No, oh, just wait. Okay. Come on down.
Hi, I'm a little younger than most of you guys, so I'm excited about seeing how many people are here. I'm a local educator. I actually work in Alcohol, but I live right next to Steele Canyon High School. I'm actually a teacher librarian. I'm really excited, so I'm researching and all these things at the moment. So that said, I work full time. I'm finishing a second master's degree and another credential, so I can keep the job I just got. I have a 7-year-old, I'm married, I have chores to do, I have all kinds of stuff, but I have a crap load of notes that I've taken tonight to write the letter that's gonna count more than your voice right now. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but you said letters count, right? And they're more important, because this isn't public, this isn't being recorded. I'm excited, thank you guys, and where's the lady with the glasses that did the amazing, is it you that did the amazing like research? Thank you, because I stole your notes. It was amazing, no, you were shaking, I'm shaking too. But write a letter, I don't have time to write a letter, but I'm gonna write a letter, because it matters. So if you have more on your plate than I do, let's talk, because I'll help you figure out how to find time to write a letter. Because I'm really excited about what you're saying. They're listening, but you need to write it down. Thank you.
One last call for anybody who would like to speak tonight. Okay, well, on behalf of the county, let me say thank you to everybody for coming tonight. We really appreciate your attendance. We appreciate you sharing your concerns with us. Again, I just want to reiterate, if you have concerns, if you have comments, please provide them in writing to the county via email, via letter. Submit them by August 21st at 4 p.m. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we would be happy to meet with you. Thanks everybody, have a great night.